Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery series discussion on the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you haven't read the series in its entirety, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which will be linked on the screen. I also have individual reviews for most of the books in the series, 1 through 5. This is just my culmination for book 6, because it makes more sense. So as predicted, because this is how it usually goes for me, the finale of Fallen Kingdoms didn't really live up to my expectations. It sort of lived up to expectations for the 5th book in the series, because it got better than the 5th book in the series, because the 5th book in the series is dead to me. But I just don't think it lived up to the first, 4 books in the series, so that's disappointing. But I'll get into it. It was still a decent conclusion. I'm not, mad, I'm just kinda over it. But it had some stumbles along the way, the series in general, but yeah, sad. So overall, my discussion of this is mostly going to be about Immortal Reign and just kind of how that did and didn't live up to my expectations and the potential of the series, in my opinion. But my biggest complaint with the series as it went on, and I think where the weakness completely came from, was adding in too many characters, too many plot threads, and characters that you couldn't really wrap everything up with in a concise, strong way. So that made the series, in my opinion, lose its way. That's why there were so many problems with Crystal Storm, and that is why it didn't fully recover for me for Immortal Reign. I think when Amara and Asher first got added in, they were fine, but then when you started adding in so many other characters, when you started getting Nick's perspective and Felix's and all of these people, you just really lost the core essence of the plot and the character development for the main 4 characters who are technically our protagonists. I mean, I would argue that Magnus and Cleo are the main protagonists, but the core 4 are our protagonists, and you didn't get a lot of time to develop them as the series went on, and so a lot of things felt a little more rushed than in the beginning of the series. I think if you just would have stuck to those 4 characters being the POV characters, the series overall would have been much stronger. So as it was, we didn't get a ton of time to develop some of those side characters that were thrown in. I love Felix as a side character, and I think he got completely shafted after Gathering Darkness and Frozen Tides. I feel like there was hardly anything with him, and he turned into a fairly one-dimensional character. Even in Immortal Reign, his just incessant need to kill Amara and then just flirt with everyone was he was a much more multi-layered, multi-dimensional character when he was first introduced than he is now. And then between Amara and Asher, we have queer relationships, or at least hinted at queer relationships. Definitely with Asher and Nick, that is a confirmed queer relationship. But Amara and Nerissa, I think her name is, have this hinted at thing, and it's I think if we had more time, we would have had more time to develop that. We really didn't. It felt kind of thrown in there at the very end. And even though we have this existing thing with the Crasians about being pansexual, I think is kind of how it's used, I guess. I don't really remember when they were first introduced how they kind of talked about it, but just very fluid with their sexuality. We've had that established, but then we don't really have Amara going with any females throughout the series until you get to Nerissa at the very end. So that was off-putting for me, because it's you could have developed this way sooner and you really didn't. Speaking of characters getting thrown together, Lucia and Jonas. Really? I don't like it. I'm sad Lucia didn't die at the end, honestly. I thought it was gonna happen. I was it's happening! And then it didn't. And I was damn it. Because I've just been waiting. And one of the things that I would have, I dreaded the entire series, I was they're gonna match up the core 4. The straights are all gonna get together. And that's exactly what happened. Because that's what every YA fantasy series does, and I am sick of it. I am sick of it. I will sign a petition to ban it. Stop doing that. The whole cast does not need to get together. Please stop. And I am so bitter that this series ended in the biggest straight trope ever, in that okay, Cleo and Magnus are my babies and they are my OTP of the series. I started to care less for them after Crystal Storm, and even in this book. I'm glad they got together. I'm very happy about that. I just don't have the that I used to with them. I'll touch back on that in a second. But the fact that we have Cleo and Magnus married, which they've been married, so it's fine, and she's pregnant. No. No, these, like, it doesn't need to be a happily ever after with the baby in the belly. Like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this for YA stories in particular. I hate them for happily ever afters in general. I just don't like it. And I feel like that's such an old cliche trope. So the fact that it's used in this series that's modern, you know, like, it's 2018 and we have pregnant. The two female main characters have babies and they're like 17, 18. So yeah, like I said earlier, I still love Magnus and Cleo, but their scenes just didn't really get to me as much, I think, because we've been just tugged around too much. Again, if the series was shorter and it was like that 4-book series, all the angst and feels that I had with Frozen Tides in particular, which was like the crowning achievement of them, would have been felt throughout the series. But since we had that and then them separated and stumbling and angsty and whatever, angsty in a bad way, like angsty in a miscommunication way, contrived, fighting, stuff like that, no, it makes me lose interest in them because I know ultimately they're going to get together because they've already gotten them together, so don't put a roadblock in there now. It's just, it feels like you're just yanking the readers around, and I don't tend to like that. And even so, like, when my angsty characters get together too soon, I lose interest in them. This happened with the Daughter Smoke and Bone trilogy as well, Akiva and Karoo. As soon as people start, like, being more solidified as together, I'm just kind of like, and my interest is floating out the window. Like, you have to hold my interest, and you just didn't quite with them. I still love them. They're still a top-ranked couple. I'm sure they'll still be towards the top of my list for my 2018 couples because they have such history, and I still have feelings about them, but I was not, you know, just clutching my chest, kicking my feet with any of these Cleo and Magnus scenes, which is disappointing because that's what I want out of a Fallen Kingdoms book. And speaking of the babies, I bitched a lot about magical babies in my Crystal Storm gripe, and this continues because what did that magical baby do? Nothing. In this, nothing. She was used as a plot device and like, she's took mommy's magic, and that's it. Like, you put a magical baby in there and do nothing with it even, like, oh, it's so annoying. So, I think, based on the magical baby and the baby now that Cleo and Magnus are gonna have, that there's hinting at a spin-off companion series that's gonna be like a sequel series or whatever. Not sure how I feel about that yet. I mean, I just finished Immortal Reign. I can see myself just being done. I do not like Book of Spirits and Thieves, which is the other prequel trilogy to this series. I gave up on it. I don't like it. I don't plan on continuing it. No, it was not a good time for me. So I don't think that I would read a companion sequel series to this. We'll see what happens when a synopsis gets released, if this is in fact what's going to happen. I think there were seeds sown for it, so I can see that being pitched now in the works kind of thing, but I don't know if I would continue with it because I'm totally fine with this series as a thing and being done with it. And I just don't tend to like these, like, the babies of the characters are now this and this, you know, this, like, Cassandra Clare-esque world where, like, it goes on forever. I don't, no. So yeah, I think the series could have gotten wrapped up sooner and it wouldn't have been so lost in a lot of filler that we had with all of these side characters' plot lines and things that weren't wrapped up quickly. And even in this last book, we got a lot of things dropped in that just didn't have time to get explored. For example, the whole, like, Bloodstone death magic thing. I love me some death magic. That is amazing. But this just didn't have enough of that because it's dropped in at the very end. I feel like it might be a tie-in to Avasat and, like, the character in there that has the death magic, but I don't know. But it's just, you're dropping in so late. That was really cool. I really liked that. I liked his ring. I liked that it brought him back. I like all that stuff. I liked it. I liked that he could use that. Like, it was cool. But you didn't have enough time with it either because it's dropped in, like, a third of the way into this book, this last book. We can't explore the death magic more. I want more. We also had a lot of really quick traveling around in this book, which I feel like I was prepared for because of season 7 of Game of Thrones. But it was still like, oh, you know, we have whole books where they're traveling around places, and in this one it's like, and now they're at this city, and now they're at this city, and now they're here, and I'm like, how did they get there so quick? Because you're just rushing towards the end, so there's not enough time, and it's just like, usually we've spent time doing these things, and there's no time, and there's no, like, character development, it's just rushing along to the plot. So that was upsetting. I would have also wished that Cleo could have kept some of her magic and that they could have kept their magic and not be just destroyed and stuff. But I think that ending was really good. I liked that it's like, now there's a balance and equilibrium. but I don't love that it was a completely happy ending, that all of our characters basically survived. Like, yes, throughout the series we've lost some characters, but they've been fairly insignificant, so there's really no threat. I feel like the threat of characters dying lost its luster pretty quick on in the series, so I knew that these characters were never really in peril. So even when Magnus was buried at the end of the last book, like, I knew that Magnus isn't gonna die. When Magnus was getting killed a couple times, throughout this book, I was like, he's fine. Magnus is like one of Morgan's favorite characters. You can tell from how she's writing him. She's not killing him. So I didn't really have that suspense factor, and so this like happy ending completely, when again you're facing basically elemental titans, not super realistic. And literally everyone gets a happy ending. Like, Amara's free with her lady love, hopefully, and Nick and Asher and Felix, like everybody's, even the side characters, like some of the guards and stuff are mentioned being with like a kitchen maid that likes them. Like, everyone's fine. Everyone's fine. Not realistic for a series that had this like looming threat the entire time. I've talked about this before, so I won't go into it, but this happens with a lot of series. This is not just a Fallen Kingdoms problem. And I mentioned this in my review, there was a lot, especially in the last couple of books, of telling instead of showing with characters' emotions, stuff that Magnus would say about Cleo, or Cleo would say about Magnus in particular, I would notice, and it's like, you don't need to tell us this thing, you can show us with your actions, and it's just not doing it, because again, I don't think there's time. We just ran out of time for the series because it had to be extended and then just kind of like thrown together and stuff. I feel like I'm complaining a lot about this. I feel like it's just, it didn't live up to expectations. It was a very mediocre ending in my opinion, and it had so much potential at the beginning of the series, and this is such a well-loved series of mine. I mean, it was one of my top 5 favorite YA fantasy series, so the fact that it just ended kind of petering out is disappointing to me. But I still ended up, it was a fun read. I'm so very glad I read this series. This series introduced me to a lot of friends here on BookTube that I still have to this day. It's still characters that I'm going to think fondly of, like all of that stuff. It's just, I don't think gonna stand quite the test of time as a whole series. I still love, like I would reread Gathering Darkness and Frozen Tides again, completely. Even knowing how it all ends and stuff. I still feel like that's worth it for me. But it just wasn't as strong as it could have been. I think a lot of things could have been tightened up, and I would have appreciated it far more. It would have been much more of a solid thing. You know, I would have liked to have seen the kindred be a thing even more. I think Gaius could have died a couple of books ago, so his death in this book was just like, he should have been gone back in like Frozen Tides. Like when he almost died then, he should have died. Like, you know, and trying to kind of redeem him at the end was just like, I don't need this garbage. And, you know, like that was just, there's just a lot of filler in this. So I'm very happy to have read it. I'm very happy that the series is done and concluded. I still have very fond feelings for it, but it overall had a lot of stumbles for me and a lot of weaknesses and didn't end as strongly as it could have. So I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out because again, this book just kind of like steamrolled through to the end, and I read it so quickly and all of that kind of stuff, and it was just a whirlwind. And it's over, and I'm still kind of in shock that like the series that has taken up a lot of time here on my channel is completed. Like, what? But comment below, let me know all of your spoiler-filled thoughts on the Fallen Kingdom series. Are you planning on reading any companions and stuff as they come out? Like, are you done? Like, did you love it? What are your thoughts? Comment below, let me know. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.